I had been married to Willow for 20 years, before I learned she was missing a kidney. The other one was inside her crush, Makoto. I overheard her whisper to her best friend. "Don't tell Makoto. I don't want him to worry about me. It's not good for his health either." Her friend asked, "If you've cared so much about Makoto all along, now that his wife is dead, why don't you just divorce George and marry him?" Willow looked down and said, "Not with this body. What good would it do to marry him? I don't want to drag him down. Besides, he's not like George. I don't want him running around for my sake." Eyes burning, I stared at the 2 full bags of medication in my hands, then turned around and tossed them straight into the trash. Chapter 1. The moment the door opened, the conversation in the living room cut off abruptly. Willow glanced at me, empty-handed, and asked, "Weren't you going to the hospital to get my meds? Where are they?" She spoke casually, not waiting for a response. She gestured toward the friend next to her and added, "Sophia rarely visits. Make a few good dishes, we've got some catching up to do." I stood frozen at the doorway, a chill crawling over me. It felt like something sticky was clogging my throat, neither up nor down. My eyes locked on Willow's abdomen as I slowly, mechanically stepped closer. Willow frowned. "George, are you even listening to me? George." Her pupils shrank. She pushed me away in frustration. I gripped the hem of her shirt tightly, and there it was, the faint scar I'd seen for over a decade, now opening like a beast baring its fangs, mocking my ignorance and stupidity. I vaguely remembered, 18 years ago, my mother-in-law had fractured her foot. Willow and I wanted her to come stay in the city with us so we could take care of her, but she stubbornly insisted she wasn't comfortable, that she couldn't get used to it. She insisted on returning to the countryside. Helpless, Willow and I drove her back. The next day, Willow got a call from the school principal and had to go back, and I took a month off from work. When my mother-in-law recovered and I returned to the city, I learned Willow had been hospitalized. I rushed to the hospital in a panic. That was when I first saw the scar. It was fresh and fragile then, and erased every doubt I had. I opened my mouth, but even my voice came out cracked and hoarse. I asked, "What did you say this scar was from?" Again. Willow brushed off my hand impatiently and fixed her clothes. She ignored me, pursed her lips, and turned to Sophia, acting like a lunatic. "Maybe he's getting dementia or something. Just ignore him." I refused to back down and blocked her path. Through clenched teeth, I demanded, "Willow, tell me the truth. Where did that scar come from?" Sophia sensed the tension and awkwardly got up. She said, "I only came to update you on some old friends. I've said what I came to say, let's catch up another time." With that, Sophia left in a hurry. As the door clicked shut, Willow's face instantly changed. She screamed, "George, will you just stop?" No sooner had she said that, there was a knock at the door. Sophia had come back, urgently knocking. She said, "Willow." Makoto tried to jump off a building at the funeral. Chapter 2. Willow visibly turned pale. I watched as her face was overtaken by worry, panic, and heartbreak. Any lingering hope I had evaporated instantly. Numbly, I let go of her wrist. Then, summoning the last of my strength, I asked her one final time, "Willow, you told me that scar on your stomach was from an appendectomy. Was that true?" Willow frowned and shot me a look of disdain. "I have to step out. Whatever it is, we'll talk when I get back." Without even glancing back, she walked out the door. After she left, I called her cousin's husband, the doctor who had supposedly operated on Willow for appendicitis. In less than a minute, a decade-long secret was torn open. He fumbled with his words on the other end of the line. He said, "Willow just said she wanted to help someone. There wasn't anything else going on between them." To this day, the guy doesn't even know where the kidney came from. You've been married to her for so many years, you know her best. If she really wanted something with that man, don't you think she would have used this as leverage a long time ago? Sure, she kept someone in her heart, but she still took good care of your home. She was frugal, managed the household, raised your kid, and talked things over with you. What more do you want? Finally, he said with patronizing concern, "Brother, trust me, at our age, just stop digging. A life partner is just that, someone to spend your later years with. As long as you're getting by, that's enough." Just a few short sentences, and he turned what should have been the bare minimum of marital responsibility into some kind of bonus. He sugarcoated Willow's betrayal, framing it as some noble, selfless act. I hung up on him, fuming, sat on the couch from daylight into nightfall. Willow didn't come back. No messages, no calls. As I sat there staring at the home I had protected for 20 years, I was consumed by defeat and doubt. I didn't get it. I felt wronged. I met Willow through a blind date. Back then, she was a newly hired math teacher. I was just a clerk at a small company. We met a few times, got along well, and married by the end of that year. We didn't have a passionate love story, but we both tried our best to maintain this little family. Like her cousin's husband said, She really wasn't a big spender, helped our kid with schoolwork, and always made sure holidays had some emotional warmth and ritual to them. At work gatherings, people often envied me. You're lucky to have such a virtuous wife. But, was I supposed to think that too? Sure, she was frugal. She kept detailed accounts, never wasted a cent, but did I? Didn't I hand over almost all my income to her? As for this so-called emotional support and holiday rituals, what was I even supposed to want from them? During every holiday, didn't I buy her gifts? Didn't I make an entire feast for her? Did she ever do that for me? No. Her contribution was emotional support, on her terms. She helped our kid with homework. Half the time, she was yelling. In the end, wasn't I the one who comforted the older one, then the younger one, and then retaught everything calmly from scratch? But when our kid did well, everyone assumed it was Willow, the teacher mom, who made it happen. Everyone thought Willow had it rough. Everyone thought I was just the useless husband. But what was the truth? The truth was, after that supposed appendectomy, Willow's health went downhill fast. Her mild diabetes became type 2. She developed chronic gastritis and lumbar disc problems from her teaching job. Maybe those seem minor to others, but they became my entire life, on top of my job and daily responsibilities. I had to watch over her diet and routines. I memorized every single item her doctor said she couldn't eat. Every morning and afternoon, I packed her meals and delivered them to school. She said physical therapy was a waste of money, so I spent half a year secretly learning massage techniques from a local master, just to treat her myself at home. When her mother fell seriously ill, I was the one who stepped up so Willow could focus on her work evaluation. And after all that, am I not even worth her loyalty? Why should I be grateful just because she never acted on her feelings for another man? Why is it enough that she only kept him in her heart? My spiral was broken by the sound of a key turning in the lock, after vanishing for an entire day and night. Willow returned, exhausted. She seemed surprised to see I hadn't gone to bed. There was guilt in her expression. Like someone caught cheating in the act. I felt a twist in my chest, and then, a man followed her into the house. Before I could say a word, Willow quickly spoke. Makoto's being hounded by loan sharks. He has nowhere else to go. Seeing my silence, she added, "If you mind, he can sleep on the couch." I cut her off with a cold laugh. "And if I don't mind, were you planning to share a bed with him?" Willow's face turned red with rage. She snapped, "George, there's nothing going on between me and him. It's not as filthy as you think." Chapter 3. I stared at the two of them, grinding my teeth. "Willow, you brought another man into our home. What right do you have to talk to me about being pure?" Before Willow could respond, Makoto stepped out from behind her. Ignoring her attempt to hold him back, he walked straight up to me. I silently sized up the man in front of me. Polite, refined, thin and gentle. He looked about the same age as me, yet somehow, he seemed a decade younger. Every movement carried the same academic grace that Willow had. No wonder she had never stopped thinking about him all these years. Makoto stood calmly before me, neither arrogant nor submissive. He said, "Don't get the wrong idea. Actually, I should be thanking you." I stared at him coldly. "Thank me?" He nodded. His voice was calm and steady, a stark contrast to the fury burning in my chest. He said, "If you think about it, she saved my life twice. You're her husband. Thanking you is the same as thanking her." He paused for a moment and glanced gratefully at Willow. "I only found out today, the kidney that saved me years ago came from her. And today, if she hadn't lent me that 500,000 yuan, Willow quickly cut him off. "Makoto." She gave me a nervous glance. It was an emergency. My mind went completely blank. I ran into our bedroom, frantically searching. 2 bank cards and all the cash were gone. I looked at the woman before me, my body trembling violently. I grabbed the cup on the table and hurled it. Willow didn't move. The cup smashed directly against her head with a dull thud, then fell to the floor in pieces. A slow stream of blood trickled down her brow. Makoto panicked and tried to wipe it with tissues. His tone grew sharper as he turned to me. "George, no matter what happened, you can't hit a woman. Calm down. I'll pay the money back. If you don't trust me, I'll write an IOU right now, interest at market rates." As he spoke, he pulled out pen and paper, ready to write, but Willow snatched them out of his hands. She turned to me, furious. "Makoto's wife just died. Even their home's been taken over by debt collectors. Where is he supposed to get money to pay you back? You're basically pushing him into a corner. George, I used to think you were a reasonable person, but look at you now, acting like some deranged maniac." I clenched my teeth. I was reasonable. "Willow." I glared at her, my blood boiling. "That's why you had no guilt secretly donating a kidney to another man, leaving me with the aftermath of your broken health. Purity. Let him cut your kidney out and give it back to you, then we can talk about that word." "George." Willow's voice cracked with anger. She was trembling, Her red-rimmed eyes stared at me like I had lost my mind. She scoffed coldly. "You're not thinking clearly right now. When you calm down, then we'll talk." She turned to grab Makoto's arm and started toward the door. Maybe she stepped on a piece of broken glass, because she instinctively clung tighter to his arm. And just like that, the two of them walked out together. That scene broke me all over again. I grabbed a chair and hurled it after them. "Willow, I want a divorce," I shouted. Willow reflexively clutched Makoto even tighter, and the chair hit her square in the back. She didn't turn around, didn't argue, just said softly, "Fine, if that's what you want." Chapter 4. After Willow left, I spent 2 days lying around in a daze. During that time, my father, my mother-in-law, and my son all called me, one after another. I didn't answer any of them. On the third day, my son rushed home from another city. He yanked open the heavy curtains. A flood of harsh light stung my eyes, and I instinctively raised my arm to block it. He didn't care. Frantic, he grabbed me and tried to pull me outside. "Dad, Mom collapsed. She's in the ER. Get up. We need to go." But my feet felt like they were filled with lead. I stared blankly at his face and asked, "Is she dead?" A flash of disbelief crossed his face. Then came the anger. "Dad," he snapped. "They told me everything." "Mom, she's just too soft-hearted. You know that. She's always been like that. Why are you making a big deal out of this? You forgot. She used to donate part of her salary to help students who couldn't afford tuition." I opened my mouth, my voice hoarse. "But she gave that man, behind my back. It was just a kidney," he cut in. "Even if Mom had died saving someone, I wouldn't have been surprised." "Dad, what exactly are you upset about?" August heat smothered the room, but his words sent a chill shooting straight up my spine. Smack, a sharp crack broke the air. I slapped him across the face. He froze. It was the first time I had hit him since he became an adult. He stood in place for a long moment, then gave me a look like I'd completely lost it. "Mom was right about you," he said coldly. "You're obsessed with control. You try to dominate everyone just to feel powerful. This family's going to fall apart because of you." With that, he turned away, walked straight into the study, grabbed the insurance cards and medical documents, and stormed out of the house. I looked around at the mess. My eyes landed on a pale yellow envelope at the door of the study. An ordinary envelope, utterly unremarkable, but somehow, it felt like fate, or a warning. I walked over, picked it up, and opened it with trembling hands. Nothing was written on the outside. Inside was a sheet of A4 paper. 2 bold characters at the top caught my eye. "Last will." My gaze slowly moved down the page, until it landed on a single line. "After my death, the property in Rose Garden Community shall be left to Mr. Ito." What the hell? I stood frozen, staring at the date at the bottom. It was from last month, right after Willow collapsed from a diabetic episode at school and was hospitalized. So while I was running around trying to manage her illness, her mind was full of Makoto. Furious, I crumpled the will into a ball and threw it in the trash. "Willow, you really planned this out perfectly, didn't you?" Chapter 5. Back when I first brought up divorce with Willow, my mind was clouded with resentment and anger. It was a decision made in the heat of emotion. But this time, I was calm. I contacted a lawyer friend immediately. I explained my situation to him thoroughly, the assets between Willow and me, the issue of our child, and the 2 decades of effort and devotion I had poured into this marriage. After a long silence, he said, "George, don't worry, I'll make sure you get the best possible outcome." I thanked him. After hanging up, I began to pack my things, calmly. It was the clearest moment I'd had in days. This apartment was something I bought before marriage. It was my personal property. Her name was added years later, but how could she think she had the right to dispose of it as she pleased? I decided to visit my hometown and talk things over with my dad. When I walked in carrying my suitcase, he stared at me for a good 30 seconds. Then, with an annoyed expression, he scolded me. "Arguments between a husband and wife are normal at your age. How can you still be so immature? You have no sense of responsibility. Your wife is still lying in the hospital, and you come running back here. What are you trying to do? Listen to your father. Go apologize and patch things up. Just move past it already. You two have been married for so many years. Don't throw it all away. Don't be so dead set on one path." Clutching the handle of my suitcase tightly, I frowned and asked, "Do you even know why we had this fight?" He cut me off. "I don't care why you fought. What matters is that the family can't fall apart. Don't forget, you're a father now and soon to be a grandfather. Stop drifting through life making impulsive decisions." I looked around at this familiar home and was suddenly reminded of an afternoon many years ago. I had just graduated and landed my first job when my father pressured me into going on a blind date. Back then, he told me that a man must settle down and build a career. Among the greatest unfilial acts is leaving no descendants. As the only son in the family, it was my duty to carry on the Wang family line. He said that men outnumbered women nowadays, and if I didn't find someone early, I might end up alone for life. I didn't agree with him, so he kept scolding me, even brought the elders of the family to lecture me. Tired of the nagging, I eventually gave in and agreed to meet the girl he chose, Willow. Of course, he didn't hold a knife to my throat and force me to marry her. In the end, I nodded and agreed to the marriage myself. What I resent is, why do parents always rush their children into marriage, when we're still so naive about life and love? As if love doesn't matter, as if happiness doesn't matter. What matters is just getting married as soon as possible. I took a deep breath and didn't want to argue with him anymore. I said, I've already decided to get divorced. If you think she's a good woman, why don't you go find someone better for her? You ungrateful son. My father pointed at me, gritting his teeth. You're so stubborn, you're bound to suffer for it someday. I froze in the living room, as if needles were stabbing in and out of my brain, relentless and bleeding. I asked, suffer? What do you mean by suffer? You don't think I've already suffered enough? The woman I share my bed with has another man in her heart. For him, Willow was willing to risk her life, and my own son won't even take my side. He blames me for not being generous enough to his mother. I just don't get it. Dad, you're a man too. How forgiving are you? Really? Is there any betrayal that, in your eyes, doesn't deserve to be forgiven? Should I end up like you, sitting at home every day, regretting not stabbing mom and her lover when she ran off with him? Smack, a loud slap. My face burned with pain. I stared at my father, who was shaking with rage, and said slowly, word by word, Dad, I don't want to live a life of humiliation. I don't want to live miserably. Marriage is just one chapter in my long life, it's not my final destination. And now that this experience has failed, I have every right to walk away. My father opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but no words came out. I picked up my suitcase and returned to my room. Chapter 6. Peace didn't last long. My mother-in-law showed up again, this time bringing my son with her. She sat squarely in the center of the living room, full of energy, sipping the tea my father handed her like she owned the place. She said, Dear in-law, I'm not just taking my daughter's side here, but who doesn't have someone they once couldn't let go of? Still, for a grown man to want a divorce over something like this, and to leave his wife lying in the hospital with no one to care for her, how could anyone justify that? I let out a cold laugh and cut her off. You're her mother. Taking care of her is your job, but am I her dad? If I go now, in the state I'm in, I'd probably rip out her oxygen tube. That shut her up. Fuming but speechless, my son frowned and looked at me, his face full of confusion and disappointment. He said, Dad, those bruises on Mom's forehead and back, you did that, didn't you? You've already let your anger out. Can't you just move on? Do you really want to keep being the joke of the neighborhood? My mother-in-law nodded. Your son is right. He's about to get married. If this drags on any longer, have you thought about what that'll do to his reputation? Willow's graduating class had one national science top scorer, 2 who got into Tsinghua, and over half the class passed the 211 threshold. She was even named one of the country's outstanding teachers. Then she gave me a smirking look and said, If you divorce her, good luck ever finding another woman like that. You might be single for the rest of your life. The message was clear. Her daughter is an accomplished, independent woman, and if I didn't bow my head, I was a fool who didn't know what was good for him. Looking at the two of them, a strange sense of unreality hit me. It was as if, in this whole trial, I was the one who had cheated on the marriage, the one who'd betrayed the family. In the silence, I actually laughed. My mother-in-law gave me a puzzled glance. She said, If you still want to save this marriage, come to the hospital with me. Couples fight, but they make up too. It's not too late to fix things. As for that shameless man, don't worry, I won't let him off easy. No one's going to ruin my daughter's reputation. I replied in a low voice. Fine, I'll go with you to the hospital. My son, seeing my change in tone, lit up with joy. He smiled. Dad, I knew it. For me, for this family, you wouldn't really go through with a divorce. I narrowed my eyes and looked at him. So that's all you see in this? His smile faltered. What do you mean? Nothing. Let's go. Just before we walked out the door, my dad gave me an uncertain look. You're really going to make peace? I asked. What else would I be doing? He looked like he wanted to say something, but after a long silence, he didn't. He only said, If anything happens, call me. Chapter 7. When we arrived at the hospital, Willow had just finished her 4. She saw me from a few steps away and briefly closed her eyes, hiding her emotions. There was a faint smile on her lips, and even her voice had returned to its usual softness. She said, I've been missing your cooking these past few days. My son tried to smooth things over. Dad was worried about you the whole way here. He kept asking me how you were doing. Willow pressed her lips together, a small furrow forming between her brows. She said, These years, your dad really did a lot for my health. I looked coldly at this seemingly harmonious family scene. But all I could hear was the conversation between Willow and Sophia a few days earlier. If you've always cared so much about Makoto, and now his wife's gone, why not just divorce and marry him? She replied, with the way my health is now, what good would it do to marry him? I don't want to be a burden. Besides, he's not like George. I can't bear to see him working so hard for me. Every word echoed in my mind like an alarm bell, pounding relentlessly. I let out a dry laugh. I said, Willow, what makes you think you deserve to eat my cooking again? Just seeing your face now makes me sick. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the crumpled up will, tossing it in front of her. I said, if someone actually wants your sickly body, they can have it. I couldn't care less. You like that Makoto guy, right? You even plan to leave him your assets. Fine, great. Everything that belongs to you, give it all to him if you want. But what doesn't belong to you, he's not getting a single cent. Willow turned deathly pale, frozen in place, trying to bend down and pick it up, but our son beat her to it. His hands were shaking. Mom, is this really your will? His face flushed red and pale by turns as he stared at her in disbelief. You were going to give the house to him. What about me? Didn't you and Dad agree you'd sell the house when I get married and help me buy a bigger one? George. Willow screamed and lunged to grab the paper. I snatched it back from our son's hands, coldly watching her fall from the bed to the floor. Our son stood there with a complex expression. Only my mother-in-law went to help Willow up. She looked at both of us. Our stern faces made it clear we weren't bluffing. Finally, she turned to Willow and scolded her. What were you thinking? Then she turned to comfort my son. Don't worry, she's your mother. She can't legally leave everything to some outsider. That will doesn't count. Perfect, I said, raising my eyebrows. Then while you're at it, go ask for the 500,000 yuan back too. My son and mother-in-law turned to stare at me. What 500,000? Willow's face went completely white. She stumbled toward me, trying to shut me up. I stepped aside and looked straight at our son. I said, the 500,000 we saved up for your wedding, remember? The bride price. That SUV you liked. Too bad. She gave it all away to that man, without even blinking. Just handed it over to bail him out like she was under some spell. I sneered and added, my good son, don't blame your mom too much. She's got one trait, generosity. I threw his own words from before right back at him, dripping with sarcasm. This time, it hit him like a brick wall. He staggered back, devastated, eyes red with rage. He grabbed Willow by the collar. He shouted, are you out of your mind? Am I still your real son? I chuckled. I can vouch for that. But as for whether you're really my son, might be time to get a DNA test. He threw Willow back onto the bed, shaking with fury. He yelled, where is that man? I'm getting that money back. Willow bit her lip. No. Don't do that. She coughed violently. And even now, she was still defending Makoto. She said, Makoto has had such a hard life. You've already got a job, you're healthy and capable. You can work for your future, make things happen for yourself. But Makoto has nothing. My mother-in-law slapped her hard across the face. Shut up. Do you even care about this family anymore? Chapter 8. I turned slightly and looked at the two people who had been standing by the door filming for a while. I asked, so, how's that exclusive scoop? My mother-in-law stared at the man holding the camera, pointing at him with a trembling hand. Who told you to film? Who called you here? Then she turned to me, voice sharp with panic. George, must you go this far? Family shame shouldn't be aired in public. I answered calmly. I just invited them to do a little feature on Ms. Willow, the beloved educator. As for the shame, well, I'm not the one it belongs to. Willow let out a shriek and tried to smash the cameraman's equipment, but her body gave out. She didn't even make it a few steps before vomiting blood and collapsing hard onto the floor. Chaos broke out instantly. My mother-in-law scrambled to call for the doctor. My son stood off to the side, watching it all with a cold, distant gaze, as if the woman lying there had nothing to do with him. I turned and walked out of the hospital room. My son quickly followed after me. Dad. He called, sounding guilty as he stopped in front of me. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said what I said to you before. He glanced back toward Willow, his face now tinged with disgust. I never imagined Mom could be like that. I honestly don't know what goes on in her head. When I didn't respond, he quickly changed the subject. But Dad, you can't just let her throw money around like that, right? Is there any way to get it back? That money was part of our shared marital assets. I thought for a moment and said, there should be a way. He let out a sigh of relief. That's good. Dad, this family really can't do without you. In the past, hearing praise like that from my son would have made me happy. It would have felt like my years of effort and sacrifice in this marriage had finally paid off. And then, to reinforce my value even more, I'd throw myself even harder into maintaining it all. But now, those once heartwarming words felt more like the universe mocking me. Why did my self-worth have to be proven through a relationship that only demanded sacrifice? I gave a small, humorless smile and kept my distance from him. I said, "Even if I get the money back, it's still mine. You're 25. I'm not asking you to take care of me in old age, just walk your own path from now on." His face flickered with shock. "Dad, it's one thing if you're done with Mom. But, are you saying you're done with me too?" I said. "No need to make it sound so touching. Let's be real, if today's mess hadn't impacted your future, you wouldn't have followed me out here or said any of this. This thing between your mother and me, it's been going on for days. You never actually cared who was right or wrong. All you wanted was a result. As long as I didn't file for divorce and it didn't mess with your plans. You didn't care if I was swallowing poison. So, as far as being your father goes, whoever wants the title can have it. You're welcome to call Makoto Dad, I don't mind." And with that, I didn't even look back at the gut-punched look on my son's face. I waved down the car and got in. Chapter 9. By the third day, the news about Willow had blown up all over the internet. A video even surfaced, footage from a few days earlier showing Willow on a rooftop, hugging Makoto. Another clip showed her in the hospital room, with our son grabbing her collar and shouting accusations. Both videos shot straight to the trending topics. Just like that, Willow, once publicly praised in the local paper, fell from the top of the mountain straight into the abyss. Netizens flooded the comment sections. Unbelievable. She looked like such a cultured, respectable teacher. Serves her right. Women like her, disloyal and shameless, deserve to rot in hell. Heard she's paralyzed now. Karma's a real bitch. A pair of scumbags. Hope they cling to each other all the way to hell, and reincarnate as cockroaches together. Don't ruin other people's lives again. I watched the sea of public outrage with a blank face, quietly finishing my meal. The school hadn't yet officially released any disciplinary notice regarding Willow. But at this point, the outcome didn't matter. Willow had suffered a stroke and was now partially paralyzed, barely able to speak. My father gave me a sheepish smile and said, "Divorcing her might actually be for the best." "I mean, you already." I frowned. "Dad." He immediately backed down. Okay, I'll shut up. It's your life, you do what you think is right." That was his compromise. Or maybe it was Willow's condition that finally gave him a reason to stop trying to save the marriage. As for the 500,000 yuan Willow gave away, we recovered it a month later through legal channels. Our divorce lawsuit was now in its final stage. Then my lawyer friend called. He said, "Originally, the house situation was tricky because of the added name on the deed, but guess what? You remember how you casually mentioned Willow had been financially supporting underprivileged students?" I asked around. Turns out she wasn't helping needy students, she was paying off Makoto's debts. I was stunned. Even now, near the end of all this, new truths were still surfacing. He went on. I dug into their background. Turns out Willow and Makoto were both graduates of University A. They were together for a while, but after graduation, Makoto's parents disapproved of Willow. They forced the two to break up and had Makoto marry someone from a proper family. But even after that, the two never really cut ties. When Willow found out Makoto had kidney failure and couldn't find a donor, she gave him one of hers. A couple years later, the Ito family went bankrupt. Makoto's marriage fell apart. He had nothing to do all day, and he ended up getting addicted to gambling. The debts piled up like a landslide. And that's when Willow started sending him money under the excuse of sponsoring students. She was paying off his loans. My friend cursed at the end. Looking at her bank records, she should have lost everything in the divorce. I understood everything now. Later, my mother-in-law and son came to complain, implying I had been too ruthless. My dad, worried about losing face in front of the neighbors, even wanted to invite them inside. I kicked him out. Later, I heard that the girl my son had been dating, her family saw the news and trending videos. Right in front of my son, they arranged a new blind date for her, humiliating him brutally. The relationship ended on the spot. Enraged, my son turned all his fury on Willow. Whenever my mother-in-law wasn't around, he would dump her bodily waste right onto her. One day, his grandmother walked in and caught him in the act. Furious, she scolded him. In the heat of the argument, he shoved her. She hit her head on a nail sticking out of the doorframe and died instantly. My son was sentenced to several years in prison. During the trial, my dad urged me to attend. I refused without hesitation. Chapter 10. After receiving the divorce certificate, I took a month of paid leave and went traveling for a while. The next time I saw Willow was 6 months later. From a distance, I spotted Makoto yelling at her. I stood on the sidewalk, raised an eyebrow, and was shocked by how much they had changed. It had only been a few months, but Makoto looked completely unrecognizable, face twisted with anger, hair streaked with gray, all that gentle charm gone. He was shouting, "I must have been cursed for 8 lifetimes to end up with a burden like you. You eat, drink, piss, and shit all in the same bed. You stink like rot. and just being near you makes me want to puke. Willow, why aren't you dead yet? Willow sat slumped in a wheelchair, half her body paralyzed. Spit bubbling from her mouth. Her clothes were stained with every kind of filth. She didn't even look human anymore. Her head hung low, eyes full of bitterness and resentment. After her mother died, and our son went to prison, Willow had no one left to take care of her. The local community, seeing her pitiful state, originally wanted to send her to a public care center, but I had found Makoto working as a street cleaner, and gave him a portion of the money from selling the house. I paid him 500 yuan a month to look after Willow. I didn't care how she lived, as long as she didn't die. Makoto hadn't wanted to take the job at first. He looked at me warily, like I was setting him up. I smiled and said, I don't have any hidden agenda. I just want Willow to finally experience what it's like being with you. Just fulfilling her wish. After venting his rage, Makoto turned to push her away. As he did, Willow locked eyes with me. Her lips trembled slightly. In her clouded eyes swirled a mess of emotions, shame, regret, humiliation. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. I went back to my 5,000 yuan a month job, and resumed a single life, with no women in it.